claims, and the reason why I thought we just need to all come together and discuss this, because as I stated, when I went to go through claims, there wasn't any parks claims, so we want to see what's going to be the best in moving forward, so we're all in the same agreement, because when I talked to Paul and Mr. Burns, nothing was really decided upon in their Parks Authority. They just told me that Councilperson Owen, which is our representative, brought up a discussion at that meeting, but no action was taken, and then no action's been taken here, so I thought, let's all just talk about it, let's agree, and let's move forward. So
if maybe I could just start, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Matt, and just explain my concerns with the way it is set to work right now. If a claim comes in early in the month, it could be, if we wait for the Parks Authority to approve it and then the council to approve it, it could be 5 to 7 weeks before our vendors get paid. And that's all I'm concerned with. However you decide, I'll go with it. But I just want to make sure our vendors are getting paid in a timely manner. So that's all I have to say.
okay, thank you.
If I may.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Owen.
We had discussed, the authority has been looking at the ordinance which establishes the authority anyway to kind of put forward a proposal to kind of clarify what the authority's duties and actions really should be. And a part of that, we put that on hold when this claims discussion started to come about. And we've discussed twice now, once just before this meeting, the claims process and what the authority feels like we would recommend and hope that the council would adopt. And we are comfortable as an authority with having the council members or the council itself approve all claims, as long as a claims list that comes out on Thursday can be sent to the Parks Authority as well. That way they have the weekend to look over those claims, ask any questions of the Parks Director, of the board president, of the attorney, any questions that they have regarding the claims, and then the council can approve them that following Monday, or Tuesday in this case. And everyone agreed, we had one absent this afternoon, but everyone agreed that as long as we had that weekend time to get those questions answered, we were comfortable with the council approving the claims unless we were to reach out and say, hey, we still have some concerns over X, Y, and Z. So I think what we would like to do is kind of put that into practice. We've had that in motion, I think, before, but we'd like to put that back into practice, and we will add that to the list of things that we would like to clarify in the ordinance that actually establishes the authority.
So in the ordinance, you basically just state that the circulation of claims on Thursday needs to also include the Parks Authority members and director?
Yeah, and I think that as long as a copy of the Parks claims got to the board president and the director, they could make sure that the rest of the members have those in a timely manner.
It's actually the practice we've been practicing, Bill,
Right.
until we just recently ran into, Mr. Burns, if you don't mind, that answers my concern, because I had the greatest concern too, as Mr. Northam did, that
Right.
vendors waiting for a long period of time to get paid. But the only thing too I would like to clarify is, basically is going through the claims, is whether or not a contract is signed. So I wanted to propose, do you think, and Matt, can the Parks Authority, Paul, can you get contracts to them prior to the service rendered? Because a lot of times the service is already rendered on contract, we don't have a signature, it could hold us liable, if, like for the bouncy houses, if somebody were to get hurt, we have an unsigned agreement contract. Can we put that kind of into a practice, so that way we know when the claim comes before us, it's signed and it has been approved, so we're not holding anything up as far as an event?
And I think that's been a little bit of the difficulty, is that some of the contracts haven't been signed. So Paul and I have been discussing that to improve and make sure that the claims being presented do have signed contracts prior to being presented. So I think you're going to see that improve. I think it has been.
And in addition to that, I emphasized in our meeting this afternoon that once those contracts are signed, they need to get to the clerk's office,
Right.
so that she has them on file when council members have questions, and she can provide that information if it's requested of her or requested of Paul.
At my last staff meeting, which was last week, we talked about this at length, so that none of my managers will have a contract performed before it's approved by the Parks Authority. So all those bounce houses and the clown situation we had earlier in the year, all those will come to the Parks Authority first before they're
Okay, because some of those contracts get into a sizable amount. It's not just like for the bands and things, it's like for the SUP Sounds Unlimited, I mean, that was almost a $80-some thousand claim, so I think that'll work out a lot better.
And just for a checks and balance, and I think there's some lag time there, I've even asked Heather, she's keeping copies with the minutes, and then when she turns them in to Vicki, there's copies of the contracts with those as well that we're signing. The question would be if they're signed on both sides at that time yet.
And is anything we discussed so far, will that contradict with, I believe, do you not have a new purchasing policy in place? Was that approved or not approved? Where are we at on that?
Was approved by the
Will
Parks
any of
Authority.
this contradict your policy, the purchasing policy?
Not that I'm aware
I
of.
don't believe so.
Okay, I didn't know if we had addressed that. I don't want to leave anything unchecked.
Sure.
Make
Yeah.
sure we're covering all
And
bases.
And if there were to be a claim that came through that was in conflict with that policy, I feel like there are members of the authority that should be able to catch that in that time frame that we're going to give between claims coming out and the approval by the council.
So you're saying that when she gives me the minutes, she's going to give me contracts too?
Is she not doing that now?
No,
I kind of thought she,
no.
actually, let me back up. I
We're
may
talking
have,
about we're talking about
about Heather.
Okay.
I may have asked her to include the name and the amount of the contract that we're approving. I can ask her to provide those if you want, just for our checks and balance.
I think that would
I
be
mean, she's
appropriate.
not a secretary. Check me if I'm wrong, she is a stenographer.
Stenographer, right.
So do we need to pay her more money to be a secretary to do these things, or?
No, because every other person that does them does it,
Yeah,
has
I mean,
contracts
when we
does
left
it
the meeting
too.
today, she said, can you get me a copy of that once some corrections are made to it? Because she said she files them, everything that we present, she files with it after we sign it, so.
I don't know, all I know is I don't get the contracts.
There's been some confusion on who's supposed to bring them to you.
I always thought it would be your department, Paul, after they were signed.
Yeah.
Do we need to iterate if a particular claim is not supported by a majority of Parks Authority, or if there's an issue, what our procedure will be moving forward?
There's not going to be the ability for the authority to not support a claim. The authority can submit a question or a concern, but the council is going to make the decision to approve or not approve a claim. There will not be
It's a recommendation, correct?
I think what you're doing is just allowing the Parks Authority to give their input.
They're privy to the information,
Ultimately,
right.
it's the council's decision. Only the council will be voting on those claims. Obviously, the Parks Authority is fully aware that they cannot vote by email or make any decision.
Right, right.
Hey, Councilperson, Owen, the only time, or Owen, I'm sorry, Jan, the only time that I would suggest that a claim not be if it's not a legal claim. And by a legal claim, that we have an invoice, we have the receipt, we have the proper documentation, we have a signed PO if needed. That'd be the only time that, and then it would be a lot of times it can just be contingent upon signature, or contingent upon getting that receipt, or, because we iron out a lot that Friday before it ever even comes here Monday. Which, Bill, you know, I email and I text and call you and Paul as well, so I don't see us pulling too many unless we can't get the documentation by Monday's council meeting. Is there any other area that we might be forgetting about that we're not addressing claims-wise, parks-wise?
I'm happy with that procedure. And if the proper documentation is not there, then at least the president of the board of the authority is notified of it, and he can instruct us whether or not it needs to be pulled. So I'm happy with that, as long as everybody's in the loop.
Okay. So I guess, Mr. Murray, do we need to take any kind of, just wait till we'll just do a cleanup with the
Clean up the
ordinance? Okay.
and that'll be a part of that cleanup. But until that comes before the council, everybody in the room is under the same understanding of what the process is.
Yes.
Okay, we're all on
Yeah.
the same page then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to, Heather Metcalf, we do have, for discussion of the sanitation budget, we just need to do a little housekeeping, especially in the 100 series. You have a paper that she handed out before the meeting.
The first page that I gave you were the additionals that were on for tonight, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of clarification on that. My mistake, I believe, on the planning and zoning director, he's actually getting paid the $10,000 more in his, that we put in the budget. So this would get him current. It's not like he's getting a raise or any of that, anything other than the normal performance increase that he got earlier today. So that's where the $10,000 comes from. The sanitation for the general labor is, you can see on the second sheet that I gave you of where our shortages were. And those were kind of cleaned up a little bit at the end of last year, and this just kind of carries forward to make sure that we get it cleaned up for this year too, because it was not realized at the time the budget was all approved. So that's where the $37,000 comes from, with the Social Security and IMPRS included in that. And then also the mayor's lease payment for his vehicle was improperly budgeted for, so we need to add a little bit more to that. And then the building commission equipment and the fire uniform, that is kind of like a transfer, because there was a vehicle that the fire department gave to building commission last year, and they transferred $2,000 for that last year, and then the other balance for that was going to be from this year. And then the very last additional appropriation is for sidewalks for $120,000, and that's for the Spring Street area that Mr. Z was talking about, and not sure if it's Hamburg Pike, Spring Street area.
Yes.
I'm not sure what that part's called.
Eastern Boulevard.
Eastern Boulevard to Plank.
Eastern Boulevard?
Dutch, I'm sorry, yes, it's Dutch. So we need to make that clarification, because we may, down the road, need to do an additional appropriation, I believe. We haven't heard any more from Councilperson White on, Spring Street, maybe sidewalks, finishing out the sidewalks there, so I don't want to get the two projects confused.
So, okay, so what's this one called again? I'm sorry.
Eastern to Dutch Lane.
To Dutch.
That's the section, where everybody is aware
I think the
that.
confusion is, that is probably officially Spring, from Eastern to Dutch, but we have multiple projects.
Areas.
Different projects on.
Sure.
So that would clean it up, maybe.
Well, we did have the family members come in, and it was their loved one that was hit and killed, so.
Correct.
They know that this is taking care of that, and then there won't be any questions about
When
that.
that was brought up, it was going to be put at the, because there are a number of projects in the pipeline, that was going to be put at the end of the list. There is a partial sidewalk going there. There's a walking path, because I drove it the other day, on a portion of that area.
Well, it's the city engineer that has I think we're just making sure money's there. Correct?
No, we're fast tracking it.
This is an additional appropriation, right?
I think the intent-
We added this to the list, so we had to do the additional appropriation to add this to the list. Right?
I mean,
I think the understanding was,
Go down the list,
Mm-hmm.
and if there's not the money allotted for it, then it goes on next year's.
For the Dutch Lane,
yeah, so when Andy made the presentation, I believe I don't have the totals in front of me, but it was like 560,000 of the 600,000 were already allotted to the projects that have been deemed a priority. I think talking about adding 120,000 to that, we should take a look at the exhaustive list of the priorities, and maybe we need to reassess those.
Okay, then I guess where Vicki went. Then I'm confused, because I remember Ed brought this up several times, and I thought this had full support.
And it does, and I think what we agreed on was, yes, we'd like to get a cost estimate and at least put it in
put it in the queue.
put it in a bullet point so that we are moving forward on this. And I believe Ed said specifically that this doesn't mean we have to break ground next year, but it should be in our,
It should be in the plan.
yeah. And I think that if we want to, move the project forward, then that's a great discussion we should have when we're looking at the list of all of our other sidewalk projects. This is very obviously an area of concern. The woman that presented her scenario, I think that's a lot of merit to have this, and I support the project, but I don't know if I support adding it, maybe reassessing our other priorities.
I think that I thought that the understanding was that this was a project that needed to be a priority, but I don't know that I understood that it was going to be an additional appropriation of 20% of the sidewalk budget. If this is a priority for 2017, then we can do it in 2017 with the dollars that are appropriated. If it's not, and I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but if those projects that were already budgeted for this 2017 are ahead of this, then this needs to be pushed back to 2018 and hit the budget for 2018.
Mr. Berkeley, I thought that Sundancer and Hopkins was going to take the money in the $500,000 that was allotted in edit.
I do not know. Andy would know.
Okay, maybe we need to.
I think the construction
Maybe
phases,
we need Andy here.
I think the construction phases of Hopkins
Go through
and
our punch list.
New Chapel and Sundancer were the items on the 2017 docket to be funded this year. And I still support all of those projects also, but we can't do every project because there's a need. I mean, every one of those projects you can say is a safety concern, and just adding additional dollars to the budget because they're all safety concerns isn't a responsible thing to do, I don't think. We need to get to them all, yes, but I could probably drive around and come up with 10 other sidewalk projects that are safety concerns. So I won't support that additional appropriation.
Is the 120, was that the full amount for that project? Where'd the 120 come from? The dollar
Andy
amount?
gave through that number. I don't know where that number came
So
from.
are we saying we need to pull that out of the additional appropriation tonight?
It's on a
Sounds like
separate,
it.
it's on a
I think
separate
there's a lot of
ordinance
confusion around it.
already, so it's whatever you all decide.
Okay.
Well, maybe a workshop with Andy on sidewalks.
Do you all have any other questions on any of the other additional requests?
So the additionals for sanitation,
Yes.
these are all covered by a circuit breaker that hit less than expected?
Yes.
Is that what I'm saying? So we're really, when it comes down to it, the additional is still going to make 2017 in the sanitation budget revenue neutral?
Yes, it should. It's because the operating balance increased, it would cut out of that, yes. Because I still have the circuit breaker estimated at the same estimate that we had for 16. I
Right.
could lower that and it would make it.
But once we get that number back, the
Yes.
adjustments would be automatic anyway. Or am I making sense?
They do it a little bit differently this year
Right,
because it's not necessarily budgeted in the budget.
that's right.
Yes.
We talked about that.
But it is unrealized revenues that we received last year, yes.
Did anybody have any more questions on
So as
this
far,
part of it?
I guess as far as the sustainability of the sanitation budget, I mean, are we headed down a road where we're not going to have our remaining balance in the sanitation fund?
I think as it
Operate?
is now, it's okay. I know that they've had some concerns on some other accounts. I'm not sure if you want to discuss any of those now, but
I would like for them, that's what we're here for.
yeah, come on up.
First of all, I want to say that we got a few accounts, and one in particular, we're starting out with the landfill account, where we're going to have more money in that, transferred or whatever. Last year, we used fuel money. We had an additional $250,000 for fuel. And this year, we went more to true budget item as far as fuel for what we needed over there. So now, we got some areas in our budget that is going to need to be either money transferred or something in order to get them back where they need to be at to keep operating. And like landfill, for instance, we have a certain amount of money in there, but as the city has grown and keep getting bigger and what we have to use for landfill, we're just not funded properly for that. And we got a few other areas the same way like that. So another reason we was here outside of what you talked about was to see, we're not in the hole like today as far as we can still operate this month. What I'm saying is that this is for a few months down the road in order to finish off a budget for the year that we're going to have additional funding. Stephanie take care of most of my budget for me. Bring up a couple points to them here.
Well, the landfill is one. I mean, the city keeps growing and the landfill budget stays the same. This year, there were several things that we had to transfer money for, and we had that fuel money, extra fuel money, which we're not going to have next year, and I just don't know where it'll come from. We had to
Now, you're saying next
transfer
year, but you mean
$30,000.
this year.
Yeah, 2017.
Yeah,
In this
2017.
budget, I just don't know where, because we had start out with $250,000 in the fuel money, and then we spent about $131,000, so that's what the budget is for. So we had that extra money to transfer to cover some of the shortfalls, and we just won't have that.
What will the shortfall be in your landfill? What is the dollar amount on that you'll be needing down the road?
It's really,
You don't know
I don't have any idea. I know that it shows that we still had a little bit left this year, but I don't see how, because we actually spent, when I add up every landfill bill for the year, we spent $380,000, and there's only $350,000 in there. And they keep adding more and more houses, and it's just, right, yeah, because, we transferred like $30,000 into motor vehicle supplies, to keep the trucks going. We transferred $30,000 out of that fuel money to buy new dumpsters, because our dumpsters are falling apart. There was money transferred, because of salaries, of course, but there was, several things that I'm just concerned about, what's going to happen.
Okay.
And I think the big thing is that we just want to try to let you all know and try to get what we can head it off before it gets to be a bigger issue. And maybe, we'll go from there.
Well, as we get going, if you're fine now, then as you get going, you get more of a handle on the dollar amount. That's when you need to let Heather know and come before us, because if it's shortfall, then
Okay,
we'll make that change then, or additional appropriation when it's needed.
okay.
Do you know what additional, you mentioned the landfill and of course the labor that we have in front of us. What other areas and a rough dollar amounts? Are we talking
Well,
small dollar amounts or pretty
in
large dollar?
sanitation, like for instance, this year on our motor vehicle supplies, it was $145,000, but we actually spent $175,000. And then our budget's the same for next year. And, generally things don't go down, they go up. That's one of them. And landfill, like I said, scares me because we have to pay them, and there's just, in our environmental fees where we take yard waste and limbs, stuff like that, we transferred money and spent 50. It was budgeted at 40,000, and we spent 50, and then we actually spent money out of other line items for that too. It's just not.
It's probably, I don't know, if you wanted to ask, it's hard to say, but if we had 250 and then we scraped off of that last year and all, I would say in most of our different areas we're running short. Most of them probably at least, between 10 and 15, 20,000 in 4 or 5 different categories in there. So we're probably looking at probably end up needing additional about $120,000, $150,000, somewhere around there.
So basically, several of these accounts have been short 30,000 from the landfill, 30,000 from sanitation, 10,000 from all these different accounts, and you've been transferring money from
A fuel
fuel
line.
line. So does the fuel line need to be smaller? I'm sorry, is that,
That's what we
Yeah,
did.
that was done.
That was done this year.
but it wasn't moved to the other accounts that
That's
are
correct.
short?
That's correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So in the budget, we cut the fuel because we only spend,
Right.
we budgeted for what we actually spend on fuel,
Right.
but then
Not
we
from
didn't
what
inflate,
transferred out.
we didn't inflate the other budget items
Right,
that had been
right.
supplemented by that fuel
Exactly
line.
right. Right.
That'd be a problem.
Yeah, that's where the problem's at. We've been going over his budget, comparing and going through and seeing what, and, that's where the big problem's at.
We won't be in trouble for a good while. It's just
Something
something
that-
we're gonna have to
That
think
will-
about.
Yeah, eventually
Because
it's
it's
gonna come to a
gonna-
head, yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
keeps getting bigger, more houses all the
And
time.
the only thing bad is that, and it's good for the city growing and getting bigger, but it's bad for us because we'd spend more and more for different functions and activities where we had to deal with in the city. That's the big thing.
Well, you just brought up a good point when you're talking about the special activities and different things that we have that's outside your budget. That, Jeremy Neff, I guess, sat in for you at the Board of Public
Right.
Works, and the department head, he came up to me afterwards, and your
Barricades.
barricades, which I've been concerned about those as well, because when I reported the cave-in, in Allison Lane, and that was pretty deep and pretty wide.
Right.
Your barricades are falling apart. In Steamboat Days, we had to move a barricade for an ambulance, and it fell apart in front of the ambulance.
And they're just not
When,
up to code.
But when I'm out and I report drainage areas where you have to
Right.
block off for high water, if your barricades aren't reflective or don't have your, I mean, we're putting us at liability.
Right.
So he said he was going to get with you
Right, we-
he was looking at 7,000 to 10,000. Did you all discuss that to get some
Yeah,
barricades?
I had her look
I
up some
actually have
prices. We had to look at some
I
prices
got
on it.
a couple different estimates
Yeah.
on them.
I just wanted to bring that up
Yeah,
so council
yeah,
knows
that was-
that
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 was
is a
brought up.
liability. that
Yeah, they're,
safety should be
evidently,
moved.
they're not up to standard. I guess Amir had talked to him about them.
Yeah, and
Yeah, Amir
what,
talked to me as
and what
well.
happened, what they used to do here the last few years and trying to save a little money, is we had like when Kenny was there, my home, I mean, he kind of built something, built something, it's kind of, I mean,
And
but, we do need safety-wise out on highways and on the roads, do need reflective stuff. There's a few things we need to make sure that we stay within what we need to, because I'd rather be able to spend a little money on that than have something happen and somebody come back and try to sue the city and then end up out a whole lot of money we don't need. If we can see something we can look at to work on to make it better for, not only for the community, make it better for us within the city, that's what we want to do. And I appreciate bringing it up on that deal.
I'll forward you guys the estimates on what it
Okay.
would cost to replace.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to bring to our attention?
Every year we usually get a dump truck packer, and I didn't see it in our budget this year. I know we had the roll-off in there, but I didn't see for that, so we didn't put anything in there for that for this year, or what was the deal on that?
Be a question for the administration.
Okay. Okay.
Well, yeah, because
Okay.
we had where we were either going to get a Packer or the roll-off
And we got-
2016, but then the airport issue came up, so
Okay.
that kind of...
All right, okay.
The roll-off.
We put the roll-off out to bid.
No. Yeah.
Yes.
That was a roll-off.
That's what we put out to bid last year, put in the budget for this year.
I just want, we was getting Packers every year, but then other major purchases this year right now is the roll-off. But, I mean, I just want to know, I didn't
Well,
see.
are those bids still current, or
On,
the roll-off?
yes,
Are they still?
yeah, I'm about ready to close out on that this week. Yeah, it's all current, it's all squared away.
It's all good.
It's all good.
What, has there been any discussion about looking into, we talk about your Packers, obviously, and some of your other trucks as well. We need to be replacing and purchasing new equipment. Has there been any discussion about looking into any kind of leasing or financing options for those types of vehicles that run, $90,000 plus, so that we can try to get some more turnover in your fleet a little bit quicker instead of
Right.
doing one every
We've
year?
done that in the past, and then usually the lease payment comes out of edit, but
Right.
we,
I know at one point we were
Have
paying
paid all
them
those off.
2 or 3
Right,
at a
right,
time.
we did.
And I think that's probably something that we need to have a discussion about, making sure that we're outlining where we can
Right,
right,
replace 2 or 3 at a time instead of just
Right.
so just one or
a
whatever.
packer here, a roll-off there. and-
Right,
right.
right. Because one thing about it, and you all know this already, that we use our stuff pretty heavily every day.
Right.
And it ain't like you use it and then say, okay, we're going to be
Yeah.
off a few days. We use it pretty heavy every day.
Every
And with
day.
our roll-off, we've been really lucky, because we've had that like
Yeah,
for
wow.
years,
Ever.
since like 96 or
Yeah.
something, and
Yeah.
we are really lucky.
And that's your revenue generator.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
yes.
why I
We
said
rent
we need that to
dumpsters
get
and-
that revenue up.
Yeah, so I'm about ready to close that on that deal and we're ready to go on that. But I'm open to anything we can as far as any program to look at, or I can get with Lynn or whoever on grants, or anything we can have that maybe we can do to be more up to date or efficient as far as when it comes to our packers and stuff, because we really use those and really use them hard. And we did to get a used snow, truck this year. The thing about that equipment like that is that you only use it a couple months out of the year, 2 or 3 months out of the year, so you don't really need to buy that new. If you get something that's taken care of well, and we got a pretty nice piece of equipment off of that. But our packers and stuff, we definitely, and like I said, with the roll-off, you all took care of, I appreciate that. But the packer is something we really, we use those things pretty heavily.
The roll-off that we put in the edit budget for 2017 was 160,000, is that right?
You put 200,000 in there, I think I'm 180-something thousand.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think as we approach the 2018 budget, I would hope that we could keep whatever the amount is, 160, 200,000
Yeah.
allocated in that, for you guys so that you can, replenish your equipment every year.
Right.
And if you can take $200,000 and, finance 3 trucks for 2 years and,
Right, I see what you're saying.
have instead of buying 1 truck every year, buying 3 trucks every
Right.
2 years.
Right.
I see
Hopefully
what
that would keep your fleet in shape.
Right,
A
but
little quicker,
yeah,
or
but
get it in
it
shape.
was 200,000 for the roll-off, that's what
Okay.
it was. Yeah. I think it ended up being 180-something. So
Gotcha.
I got the figures back in the office.
And I think the other issue we need to address, or maybe not, you started paving late this season.
Right.
So do we need to reappropriate, I know
Yeah,
money that was
we
not
move
spent
that.
16, we need to use for
Yeah.
17. Where are we at on that?
That's already,
It's
It's
already,
already
yeah,
been
yeah, it's already,
addressed?
yeah, we're
Okay.
fine with that. So, yeah, we'll, as a matter of fact, I had a meeting with
Is there-
some people this week, this end of last week,
Okay.
on trying to get in there earlier, getting earlier bids
Good. I was
in.
going to ask
And
why
try,
we
yeah, I already
started.
had that, it's already, already to roll on that, so,
Good deal.
yeah,
Good
so
deal.
we'll stay on top of it.
Was there anything else?
I don't think so.
No, that's all. I really appreciate y'all's time, and here with us. And, so we'll just keep rolling.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
all you all do. You make us look good.
Thanks, Clark.
Do y'all have any other comments on any of the other additionals?
So are we gonna try to get an actual better estimate dollar amount? I mean, I realize it's not a problem now, but I feel like it would make sense for us to at least have a number that we can start to address. I guess is that the next
so too.
action
I'll
item
work,
forward?
Are we talking
I'll
about the
keep in-
sidewalk?
No, we're talking about the budget.
Oh, theirs.
We're
Yeah.
fine now,
I'd like to
but
know
we're
how
gonna-
deep of a hole we're looking at.
I'll work with Heather and with Clark, actually, because I live so close to the street department, it's easy for me to go in there, and we'll just have to make sure that things are running low, we get a better, as soon as we get a good number, we need to bring it to council,
Okay.
okay? And then that way, because it does take 2, we have to advertise, do what we have to do, but it takes 2 meetings to get your money there, so.
Because-
We don't want to get close to the red or,
Right, because the deal we have is that some stuff fluctuate in pricing and what they do now, so, Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Heather, did you have anything
I
else?
didn't
that
have
you needed?
anything of this, other than
Council,
questions from you
any
all.
other questions for Heather? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn this workshop.
So
A
moved.
question.
Oh,
Is there a room for department head comments, or is that reserved for council meeting only?
if you have something you need to come
We're
around,
here.
I mean, we're here, it's 10 after 6 and we
I
got till
appreciate that.
7.
I won't take a lot of your time.
Or 6.
My city partner program is changing over to a city role, an employee role. His current contract runs through March, so we've got a couple months, but we really need to get moving on this. So all I'm asking is, if you talk to the current city partner, he feels like that the offer of $47,476 isn't in line with what this position should be paid. So he's talked to a few of you individually on the phone, and I just want to entertain, or asked if you would entertain speaking in small groups with him so he can get in front of you and tell you why he feels like he should make more money. Now, option 2 is that we say, no, there's no interest in that, and maybe we relook at it at the budget time for 2018. In June, July, August, whenever that happens. But I'm at the point I have to make a decision and get moving on this position.
All right. I understand, just keep in mind that when that was, we went by the advice of Liz Gross through Kim,
Correct.
so, yeah.
Like I said, if you tell me, hey, we're past that, 47,476 is where we're landing, then I'll make that offer tomorrow. If you want to sit down and talk with them individually or in groups of 3, I can set that up. But if you don't feel like that is necessary, I understand.
Well,
Get us all at once.
I fully understand where you're coming from. I'm almost of the mind to say, Mr. Northam, just come up with a number and I'll make the motion. Because I think she also, Ms. Gross, recommended the same for another position. But it seems that that position was raised based on certain experience and expertise. So if for some reason you believe that this person has certain experience and expertise that goes beyond that, then I believe the ordinance calls for you to report that to the president of the council, and then they're to review that and then present it. However, based on past practice, any one of us can just make a motion and have a second and vote on it. So, and that's substantially in substantial compliance with the ordinance. So, this is what happens when you bring in 3 people at one range, and then you identify one of them and bring it up, then we're in the situation we're in now. So I completely understand and appreciate your comments.
I will discuss this further with you, and we'll talk with Kim and see. I don't like the idea of just throwing a number out there.
Okay.
So if it's in line and the number that he suggests or you're suggesting is fine, I'll discuss it and we'll bring it to council, let the
Okay.
council decide.
That works.
I do encourage, though, I think a lot that has to do with this position, with talking with Dave and talking with Paul, that we may not have the true total concept of everything that he does do and all his, what do you call it, his job description. It's more than just sitting in the office making phone calls. He does
It is.
presentations, he goes out and meets. So I do encourage any councilman to take him up on that offer to speak with Mr. Simpson and with Paul and get the full scope of his job and all that he does. I think we'll have a better understanding. I know I
And
did.
he created the program.
I had a better understanding.
Right. Well, he created the program, and there's certain value in the fact that he has created the program, he's worked in the program for 2 years, and he has built relationships with vendors and with sponsors. I get that part of it. You know, they may not want to see a revolving door city partner, but he has built relationships, so he can tell you he feels like that that maybe it's not a good thing to bring in a brand-new guy. I get it. He's selling himself. He's trying to sell himself to get more money. I understand that. But I don't think we should think of it as a negative thing. He does a lot for the city. He does a lot for bringing in sponsors. He brings in a lot of money, and I can have him come to you and give you what he brought in last year and what he brought in this year and what he's got moving forward. I would support giving him some more money because I don't want to have to start all over again with this program. He's built it to where it's at today. So again, if you want to discuss it and get back with me and we can talk about some options, or if your final word is hire somebody, Paul, I'll go do it tomorrow. I'll put an ad in the paper and we'll get the best, we'll get interview some people and pick the right person for the job.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
so I'm in sales, and my salary is based on the value that I bring to my company. And I feel like this position with soliciting sponsorships is structured in a very similar way. And I believe that some of those questions were asked about a number of what he was bringing in for sponsorships, or this position has historically brought in, and I don't think that question was ever, I don't think we were ever given a hard number of this is exactly the value that's been brought for this position. So I would like a number, and I would like to see the dollar amount that has been contributed and what value is being brought.
Sure.
Before a decision is made. I don't know if the council
Brings
would
up a
support
good
that.
point, because those numbers were brought to when we were
That was the
Parks
question that I
Authority.
asked,
Yeah.
specifically.
We need those.
And
I wanted to know what was being brought in.
And not only what did that person bring in as far as dollars and in-kind donations, what was that person paid each of the 2 years? If
How much commission did he make
Right.
the past 2 years? I see what you're saying, yeah.
I would be interested to compare what his commission was for the last 2 years to what he thinks that the position is worth today as an employee with full benefits and everything that comes with being an employee of the city.
I would also
I'll get that information.
I would like that. Remember, you have the in-kind.
Yes.
You could separate, add the two together, but have them separate out so we know what was in-kind and what was
Yes, he was
actually
paid at
additional
a
dollars
different
he
rate
brought
for
in.
in-kind
Yeah.
sponsorships than he
Yeah.
was for cash, so
And-
I'll break that down.
I'll be honest, when previously when we were going through the budget, Mr. Simpson, emailed me and threw out a number that was 6 figures, and that's what he thought that this position was worth. And that's not going to be doable. We just don't, even if it was worth, we did think that that's what it was worth. That's not even relatively doable with your budget. I mean, you know that.
Exactly.
And we're not going to pay somebody who's soliciting advertising more than we pay the mayor. And I thought, when I got that number, I didn't take anything that he said seriously, and I don't have any need to meet with him now because we put that position out to a vendor that apparently we trust because we continue to use this vendor, and she came up with a recommendation. We put it in the budget, and now that's where we're at. And other people who are in the marketing world have asked about this position because they've heard that it's going to be a city position, and when they've heard that $47,000 is the salary, they've asked when there are going to be applications available, and so far there hasn't been. So I think if that's not enough, then maybe we should see, maybe we put it out and we don't have any quality applicants. That could very well be the case, and then we have to reassess where we're at that point. But this has been an ongoing thing, and it's...
Shouldn't legally we put it out? Shouldn't it have been put out to, and not just assume that somebody was...
reapply?
Yeah.
Is that, I don't know what the standard.
It might be a question for Kim. I know she's not here, but because he's been acting as a contract employee for 2 years, I don't know if he gets the first option or if that's even a legal thing. I don't know.
See, and I'm not saying he doesn't have a valid point, or if we raise his or whatever, but I don't like the fact somebody coming and saying, and we're in a position here, I'm going to make this, he hasn't committed to the job. If he's wanting X amount of money, we're kind of like in a holding pattern here, and I don't like that, because we're we've got Abbey Road sponsorships that we have to be going after. I'm sure he's still doing the job and doing a good job.
He is
I just don't
definitely.
like this holding pattern that
Yeah.
we seem to
So
be.
I
then,
agree.
and that's another question, if we're going to have this discussion for the next 6 weeks, and he's acting as a contractor, bringing in sponsorships and making commissions off those sponsorships, is he going to get those commissions, for the sponsors for 2017, and then we're going to decide, no, we're going to stick with this salary? He says, okay, that's fine, I've made all my commission this year, now I'm going to make a salary for the rest of the year on top of that. And are we paying out, even more than for 2017? I think we need to, the expression that came to my mind isn't appropriate. We need to make a decision of which way we're going to go with this. And if it's not, if we're not going to stick with the same person, we need to move on.
I mean, I think we're bound by contract through March, so
We can get out of the contract. It's written that we can end the contract at any time.
Paul, does he have a no-compete clause with that contract?
I don't think so.
I don't remember. Do you, Nathan?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't believe he does. I was going to ask, we're talking about posting it and all that. He's been offered the job, right?
He has.
So, he's waiting to see if we'll up the amount.
He is, basically.
And it sounds like we would like to see the numbers again to see if it's, to base that decision. Okay,
That's why I say we're in this holding pattern where he's waiting to see, but wait a minute, we need to make a decision.
How quickly can you provide us
We need to
numbers?
decide to move on, so.
Yes, probably tomorrow.
I would suggest that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if
Right away.
the information sent out promptly, then I don't think we need to take 6 weeks to make a decision.
Correct.
So we would
We
come
made the
back at the
decision.
next council meeting
Approved the
and,
last budget and we approved the position, but
That was kind of my take, and that's why I said, that's kind of where we all approved that, and we could discuss during budget hearing time
Mhm.
any additional, but that was just kind of my preliminary thoughts on
Right,
it.
I have no problem with
Open.
that. Just telling him the offer's been made. If he doesn't accept it, then we're going to advertise and interview. Or if you tell me, just go ahead and advertise and interview, and then give him some time to decide. Listen, I think he does a great job, but it's not a deal breaker that if he doesn't get the money, I'm going to be upset about it. I think we can find good applicants, people that can do the job. But I'm pulling for him because he has done a great job for 2 years, and he put the program together, and a bunch of other, ideas that I had mentioned. But anyway, I just need to make a decision. So I'm happy if you're telling me today, Paul, advertise it. I'm going to go out and advertise it, and we'll get interview some people, and we'll pick the right one.
My concern about that is, so we go advertise it, and then we get these applicants, you start interviewing them, and then we come back and he actually accepts the job, then that's a lot of
Yeah.
hope you've raised and a lot of time you've wasted until we determine what we're going to do with him. And it seems...
Should we say you have until Friday to make a decision, and then after that, we post it? And then my only thing was that maybe in the fall, when we do budgets, that we look at it again. Maybe we'll have some time to have some small group meetings with him. You can have the numbers in front of you. You can see what he's done and consider some more at that time.
Are you planning on recommending another amount? You have a council person that says, you recommend it and I'll make the motion. Are you going to recommend, or are you going to say, I'm not going to get into that?
I honestly haven't talked to him about what number do you need.
Okay.
I've thrown out a 53, which is 6,000 above what or 53-ish, which is 6,000 above, and 55. Those are two numbers. I don't know if he'd accept either one of them, to be honest. I know he mentioned a six-figure to Matt at one time. I don't think he expects that, but I think...
He said that's what it was worth, but he would take 75 or 85 or something like that, which is, again, unrealistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that much is way too much. That amount is way too much. I could say right here, I'll offer him 53 and see if he takes it. But again, either way, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I like the guy and he does a good job, but if you say, let's advertise, let's do it. And let's just tell him, here's your offer. you have until Friday to give me an answer. If you don't, then we're going to post it.
You brought up the issue about the contract. He's not the only person that was converted from a contract to an employee. So
What do you mean, the issue of the contract? I didn't,
you said maybe we have to advertise it since he was a contract employee.
Yeah, I mean, there have been multiple occasions where we've hired just because we know we have the candidate that we want. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I know that's happened regularly.
Well, I certainly don't want to speak for the council, but in proposing a number tonight and voting on it I don't think we have a majority of people that are willing to do that tonight. I think as a council, we either need to get more information and even after receiving that information, give an ultimatum on Friday. If you don't agree to that, then we're going to move forward, but.
Paul said he could have a number by tomorrow, so let's just hear it out. And
Just email it out to all the members, and then, I don't know how that works, your all
I
discussion.
always favor on the side of having more information than not enough, so that's my stance.
I'm sorry.
We'll just,
yeah, and before anything,
Contract, you're all talking about contract.
Oh,
I'll get it before the meeting.
yeah.
And this is a contract that he has signed?
Yes.
Already, for this year?
no,
No. His
for the
contract,
previous 2
So
years.
it terminated itself already? So he
No,
didn't
in
know
March.
about
The,
it? Gotcha.
the contract's up in March.
Gotcha.
yeah, he is contract, but then the decision was made during budget hearings in 2016 for 17 that we would make that position an employee. So that's where our little
Mr.
dilemma
Owens seems to
is.
believe that contract can be
Voided.
voided or
Right.
dissolved at any time.
So that would
Right.
probably, I'd like to read it.
Okay.
So in the
Sounds
meantime,
good to me.
if you can get that information out and divide the in-kind from the,
Cash.
yeah.
And either
You got
way, Paul, I think you'll get a decision pretty quickly, so you're not
Okay,
wondering what
Yeah,
to do
we-
next.
yeah,
We'll
we-
give you
we're-
some direction either way.
Yeah, I
Great.
think that's one thing we are in agreement, but we want to get this resolved quickly.
I would suggest taking a look, and Kim could probably direct you to it, if not less. There's an ordinance on this when you're asking for more than what the entry-level range is. And I believe, even though we all would like the information, it's the council president's job to review that and make a recommendation to us that we then make a decision on.
okay, thank you.
I know this sounds like this is foreign to everybody, but I mean, this has happened over time over the past several years, is that we have an applicant who says they want more money than what is there for the administration to give, and we just reach out to the council. There is a policy under the wage policy procedure, is a mechanism in place to do that. So I guess I feel a lot comfortable that we're sort of negotiating with an employee in a public meeting.
That was my thoughts.
I'd like to see this done, but
I thought this matter was resolved.
coming Friday that I'm not aware of, I don't know.
Sounds like a good place to end the conversation.
Everybody on the council, I know Mr. Rodriguez is going to be like, 75, I might take that job. I was beginning to wonder if there was going to be an application certainly. I mean, I'm just saying.
It's a part-time job.
Yeah.
I can work for a full-time job and do that.
Followed for the last several years.
Like I work in the private field, and 75 for
This situation.
Yeah,
I mean,
but the difference
that's his number,
is,
75 is his number. That's what he told you, right?
but it
No.
was in that
We
range.
told Matt.
And that's an email
Up
that
to
was
100?
months ago, so.
Big number.
But, and that may have changed at this point because there hasn't been any movement on it. But, I think the reason that this is a kind of a different circumstance now is that we debated on if we were even going to make this person an employee. And we've had all this conversation already, over what the salary should be. I don't know.
So I'm just going to circle back.
I'll get the information out tomorrow to everyone, and then we can discuss it with the
Great.
council president. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Anything further? A motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.